Friday, September 29th, finishing up Q3 of 2023, and we arrived back at work on Monday. Hopefully without a government shutdown. We'll be starting Q4 of what a crazy year and what a crazy week it's been. We've had our eyes on this week because a ton of economic data hitting the presses, and we wanted to see how the mortgage market might respond to that, and also long-term treasuries like the 10-year treasury, how they would respond. We really could stand to have some good news as it pertains to what's going on in the world of bonds. We are facing an unprecedented third year of declining value of bonds. We've never had that before in the history of the country. So really we're hoping to pin our sights on maybe some moderating inflation data, maybe some other data showing that economic activity is starting to calm down a little bit. We knew some jobless claims data would come out. The Fed's got its eye on weakening the labor market. We think that's a futile exercise. Let's see how that all played out. But unfortunately, as the news came out, we saw the first 3 days of the week really with a pretty substantial sell-off in mortgage-backed securities. We've gotten a little bit of that back so far today, and so far on Thursday, and then relatively flat today. Ultimately, what we are looking at here is finishing out the week worse than how we started it. That is not what we wanted to hear. We really could stand to get a little bit of good news on the affordability front. And listen, I'll be the first to admit, over the past 18 months, I have taken our Federal Reserve to task. And I will tell you, there's only one reason. They make it really, really easy to do. And unfortunately, we got more of the same along those lines this week. If you look at the strict economic data, we got exactly what we were hoping for this week. If you look at what happened in the world of bonds, treasuries, mortgage-backed securities, everything got worse. And why did it get worse? In large part, thanks to comments from our Federal Reserve. Let me take you to exactly what happened this week. Let's scroll down the page and look at what the big number was today. This is personal consumption expenditures. This is the Federal Reserve's professed favorite measure of inflation. Take a look at this. Core PCE, which strips out food and energy, came in at 0.1% against an estimate of 0.2%. That's month over month. Hey, if you annualize that, folks, you're looking at 1.2% inflation. The Fed's target rate for inflation is 2%. That's excellent news. That's exactly what we wanted and needed to see. So why aren't we rallying? Why aren't things getting better? Let's take a look at some more economic data. Pending home sales index, way under estimates, telling you that the housing market is cooling off by a substantial degree. That's not good news for folks in my industry, but that is good news in terms of getting inflation under control. Exactly what we thought with jobless claims. They came in under expectations. Listen, the Fed has been on this narrative of trying to drive up joblessness, trying to drive up unemployment. They think that's necessary to cool inflation, and this week right here is evidence that you don't have to drive up joblessness to get inflation under control. We see inflation moderating. We see the jobs market remaining relatively robust. And listen, it's going to stay that way. We have about 62.5% of able-bodied Americans are working. We have a 9 million some odd open jobs. You're not going to be able to bring pain to the labor market. It'd be nice to see the Fed take the foot off the gas. And as you continue to pour through the economic data, it all points to signs that the red-hot economy is moderating, that inflation is getting back under control, and that the jobs market is remaining healthy. So why then did we see interest rates worsen? I'm going to call your attention to an example of why that was the case. So this is the Federal Reserve President Neel Kashkari on September the 22nd, where he said he sees a 40% chance of meaningfully higher interest rates. Says doesn't think that they've got inflation under control just yet. These are Neel's comments coming this week, even though we just got data saying that we're coming in under expectations. He actually published a paper on September the 26th. And in that paper, this is the really interesting part, he says, indeed, right here, picking up on that right there, indeed, consumer spending and economic activity both continue to exceed our expectations. In addition, hey, housing folks, pay attention to this. In addition, the sectors of the economy that are typically most sensitive to interest rates, housing and automobiles, have proven surprisingly resilient and by some measures have bottomed and are now showing signs of beginning to recover. Beginning to recover and surprisingly resilient. That's how our Minneapolis Fed president is describing our housing market. So if you work in the housing market, you know there could be nothing further from the truth. This is the Home Ownership Affordability Monitor from the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta. We are at an all-time low for housing affordability. A reading of 100 means an average income family can afford a median priced home. We are at 68.4. We have never been lower than we are right now in terms of home ownership affordability. It is not good out there. Mortgage rates are hitting a 2-decade high as mortgage applications tick down. We know mortgage demand is shrinking, according to NBC News. Look at this one. Total existing home sales percent change year over year. We have had 13 straight months of double-digit declines in existing home sales. Remember, our Fed president said the housing market has bottomed and we're seeing it surprisingly resilient. We're seeing it rebounding. We have had double-digit declines in existing home sales for the past 13 months in a row. Pending home sales plunged last month as mortgage rates hit 20-year highs. They're actually at 23-year highs now. And we're even seeing that home builder inventory is starting to tick up as new home sales slow. The sales pace of new homes fell 8.7% as compared to July. You just can't make this stuff up. How in the world is our Federal Reserve stating that we're going to keep pushing interest rates higher, meaningfully higher, because we see resilience in the housing market? We see resilience in the automobile market. Nothing could be further from the truth, and it's a troubling thing, and you hate to keep banging on this drum, but boy, our Federal Reserve seems to not know much about housing. If you're pointing to maybe home price appreciation, listen, there's just not enough houses, and when there's not enough supply of something, the value of it is going to remain high. That's not helping affordability though, and that's certainly not a rebound of the housing market. That is certainly not resilience in terms of the housing market. That's just the fact that no one can afford to move. No one can afford to leave their 3% mortgage, and so you're seeing very few homes on the market, prices remain elevated. Whew, boy. I cannot wait until we have something else to talk about besides what our Federal Reserve is doing. In the meantime, if I can be of any assistance to you over the weekend, please don't hesitate to reach out. Mark.Milam at HighlandMTG.com. Have a good weekend.